Last week, Reese Dainty wrapped up the F1 title for the first time. He's won a title in F2, Tier 2, and now F1. This week, his team, Red Bull, can win the Constructors' title in RPL. It's time to find out, 36 laps ahead of us, if they can just achieve that. For Red Bull, it would be another title in a row for them. They have not stopped winning titles in RPL F1. They've been on a consecutive streak. We'll go into that a little bit more in just a moment. The driver standings, obviously I mentioned it's wrapped up. Still a fight for second. Still a big fight as well for P4. Constructors, there's a battle for P8 as well. And Mercedes have officially clinched third place. No one can beat them, and they can't beat anybody else. We'll get into just a couple things in just a moment regarding today's race. However, I'm your commentator, Ryan Searles. I have changed my gamer tag. Instead of being Ryan Ocon, I'm Ryan Searles, my full name. Alongside me today, once again for the second time in a row, it is Titan Ironwolf. It's good to have you here.
It's good to be here. As you said last week, Reese achieved the dream of a lifetime, winning the Tier 1 championship. His team, Red Bull, could possibly win the Constructors. The only formality in regards to that is Ferrari. And Ferrari, in this case, they have to outscore Red Bull by 27 points in order to stay in the hunt. Can it be done? Well, who knows?
That does become the question, and Brazil usually turns out to be a very interesting one throughout not only the history of RPL, but just in general. One of those races that either could be mixed in terms of rain. We had the Drivers' Championship won here last season. And by the way, it is going to be raining at some point this weekend, for what I've just learned. Reese's stream showed it. It showed qualifying sessions dry, but I guess there's rain coming eventually. May not be this session, but if it's not, it's definitely the next session. It says dry but overcast for now. Shows a clear sky right now. However, in 30 minutes from now, it is definitely raining. So you can see drivers getting out on track. We'll go over just a couple of things. Actually, it might be raining in just 5 minutes. We'll go over some things very, very quickly with that being said, so we can go on board with some drivers on laps. Bourbon, this week in the Aston Martin. Grogger's returning for Haas. Annex at Alfa Romeo, obviously with that little change. Hunted, won Tier 2 yesterday at Alfa Romeo. Beatnik is back. He's in Williams this time. Shanghai is returning after being away for a couple races. That second Williams seat still to be determined. Ads is also back as well for Mercedes. That second Williams seat, Wavy and Beatnik were discussing yesterday. They're still not 100% sure. You have TTM Barney making his debut. And Stenner back in the Haas. That is about it. However, everybody's on track, Titan. Who should we go on board with?
Well, on my end, I'm currently on board with the first guy that crossed the start-finish line getting his lap done. That is Beatnik, who is currently going through turn 6 right now.
It is raining, by the way.
Yes.
It is raining. So the drivers were right to go on track. The only one not on track, T.S. Korsman and Jack Miles. Big for their race. Why is that so big? If you don't get a lap out on track right now, you might lose out on getting into Q2. Beatnik coming through now. Into the final couple of corners we had in this race, 2008 in real life. Is that Glock happened in that corner? Such a famous moment. Kimi Räikkönen went off that same corner later on in 2012. Then the safety car that ended this race in the wet, 2012, in that exact corner. Beatnik just went through, comes to the line now for the Williams driver. Beatnik sets the time at the top of the table, 9.8, the benchmark. Williams have a good chance at getting both their cars into Q2 with this. Barney sets a lap. Annex sets a lap. Next is the other Alfa Romeo. Hunted sets a lap. Better than that. The Mercedes goes better than that. Adds better. Also behind that, another driver. Cryptic as well. TB, Josh, everybody. The times are coming in pretty much immediately with rain on our forecast. And you could see Korsman out on track now, but might be too little too late.
And there's also another driver that might be a bit screwed over because of the rain. That be Reese. He was the 4th driver across the line to finish his time, but he invalidated somewhere during his lap. He has to try again. So is that possibly going to risk him getting a not so good time because I mean when it comes to rain in this game, I mean you could have moments where the rain will show up and then it'll take like 10 to 15 minutes for the track to be too wet to get a lap in. Or there's other times where the rain will just start and then DRS gets disabled literally like 10 seconds later.
Well, DRS not been disabled yet. Reese comes to the line. Reese should be okay. Reese is P4. So Reese on that lap had a decent lap. I should say so far, best qualifying lap we've seen out of our drivers. Luke, you can see in the Mercedes, 12th fastest, knocks Groggers to 16th. You got Shanghai and Korsman, who are coming now to the line. Korsman getting a nice tow from the teammate. This is very crucial for McLaren to get this tow. My goodness, the speed increase that he is picking up is incredible. Here comes Korsman, winner last week, gets into Q2 this week, just barely by the skin of his teeth. Beatnik right now out with that lap, just barely over his academy teammate Barney, who is making a debut. And Shanghai as well, only set a lap 18th fastest. Jack Miles in the pit lane, can't get out there. His teammate just came in, and he's going to be out of qualifying, it looks like.
Yeah, by the looks of it, it looks like, yeah, Jack unfortunately is going to wind up starting in last. Shanghai, unfortunately, slowest of the field. Groggers and the other Haas, 17th, not a good, not good for him. And Beatnik, literally the first guy across the line, and got dumped all the way down to 16th. It's quite unfortunate for those four mainly. I mean, I think one driver that I feel most bad for, well, actually now I'm saying it, two of them that I feel really bad for. Beatnik, like I said, first guy across the line, and then all the times just came in and just dumped him all the way down to 16th with most likely not a possibility of him improving the time. I mean, unless he has an extreme luck. And then Jack sat a bit too long into the pits. He's actually out on the track now in turn 5, but I'm not really sure. Like you said with Korsman, it might be too little too late. But Korsman did get a P10, though. Jack actually sat in there longer. I don't know if he could get a Q2 time in before the track gets too wet.
Jack can get a time in that's probably 17th, honestly, if he could just pull something out of the bag. Jack has done impressive things before, but look at how close the field is in getting in that one lap, though. I mean, you're going to have to go out again if you want to improve. I don't think it's going to be wet enough to go to inters just yet. You see most of the drivers on softs. I mean, the track is, I wouldn't say in that in-between period, but it's just right before that. So, I mean, yeah, Jack will have a time that isn't great, but at the same time, you're setting yourself up for a dry race. You want to have a decent qualifying. You're not going to want to qualify last. So that's why Jack's out on track now to at least try to make an attempt. You know, the field's so close that you need a second to the top guy, Josh, his teammate, to get through. 7, 8 different teams in the top 8. That's incredible from this qualifying session, to say the least. Jack is going purple, though, but that could be a fake purple, though, as that does happen a lot. His teammate, Josh, set a 16.9 in the first sector, Jack a 17.6. So you can see Jack not anywhere close to get to Q2, but as I said, Titan, he could still get P18 or P17 from Groggers or Shanghai.
Anything is possible. Not gonna lie about that. As looks like Beatnik was trying to go in to get a lap in. Oh, the switch to Groggers, he got extremely loose out of turn 4, almost crashed, but he saves it, keeps it going. Now let's go to Jack here on the last charge down the funnel straight. Well, let's see what he's got. The 15th time is a 9.7, and Jack is the second slowest, 11.2. So, yeah, I think that track is just a bit too wet to try to get some improvement, and unfortunately, Jack sitting 18th right now. That's not good. That's not good. I feel bad for him.
You know, you could argue it is his fault for not going out early enough, but how would he know when the forecast said what it did? It said it was dry but overcast for the session, but didn't show rain until 5 minutes. You never know if that's lying to you. This game has done that same thing over and over again. Reese showed me what happened there with not not necessarily his lap, but the session with what the case is. Sorry, 7 different teams in the top 8 though, with both Red Bulls there. My bad on that one. You can see the track's now getting a little too wet as Jack's gonna head to the pit lane. Most drivers were tiring Jack's around. With that being said, but Reese showed me what happened there. It said rain in 5 minutes, rain in 30 minutes as well, clear in 60 minutes from now. So we could get a dry Q3 for it to dry up at the end, but a dry race, wet qualifying. Just didn't know it was going to get wet that quickly because it did say dry but overcast, and it the game kind of lies to you on that because it tells you one thing, then you see the other on the other part. So really unfortunate for Jack Miles here to be out in this qualifying session, and now will be time for inners. However, I think everyone's going to retire here, Titan.
Absolutely. I mean, as you were mentioning about with the unpredictability of the wet weather and stuff. Um, I'm slightly sidetracked in this piece. In another league that I ran in a few days ago, we had rain coming in at the very beginning of the race. It showed up on like in the second lap, and by the time DRS got when the DRS got disabled, it was like 10 laps later, and we were racing at France. So it took a long time for the track to get too wet and DRS to get disabled. But I mean, like I said, with the rain, it's unpredictable. You don't know how long it'll be, when it's like how long it'll take, all that stuff. But yeah, pretty much everybody is retiring from it. So literally, Shanghai out, Jack out, Braggers out, Beatnik out. So two Mercedes power cars and two Ferrari power cars out of Q1.
And big enough that a Ferrari is out, considering Jack has taken pole at least one time in the last 4 seasons, trying to go for a fifth consecutive season, would get the record for that, would tie the all-time record for that just in different seasons. Not only that, but Ferrari has a Constructors' Championship they want to chase after today. Drivers getting frustrated with the chiller, just wanting him to retire at this rate. So it should definitely be very interesting in terms of that. I don't know why Zakaria is asking for the stream. The stream is up. It's shown that unless it just pinged a little late. It must have pinged a little late then. That may be why. However, Titan, since Darius has kind of been refusing to retire, you could say, both have Ataris, and that might be a big surprise to me, but that's beside the point. We'll get to surprises in a moment. The one thing I want to mention is next season's lineups. There's 7 people watching, and not all of them follow our social media. Some of them do not know some of the lineups for next season. Let's go over a couple things. Give me your thoughts on these. Korsman, full-time McLaren now for next season. He's full-time for McLaren the rest of this season as well, replacing Lewis Piper. Lewis Piper goes from McLaren to Aston Martin next season. Minico was going to value his options, quote-unquote, but went over to Haas. Instead of that, being kind of feeling a little betrayed, but you know what? He said that hurt on yesterday's Tier 2 stream that he was in with another driver. So you can see how personal he took that one. Jacob returning to RPL. He's going to be at Alpine. Alongside him at Alpine is TB. He switches, or sorry, not TB, Bourbon. He switches from Mercedes to Alpine. TB switches from Alpine to Mercedes. And the second Williams still up for grab for next season. So a lot happening, as here's your rundown. While that's happening, while we look at that, give us your thoughts on all that happening. For next season.
Oh, sorry, I had a slight sidetrack. But yeah,
Oh, good.
I mean, there's quite a few unique lineups here. I mean, a couple major ones. I mean, you have I'm just gonna slightly say like the nick. Maybe if I felt like giving a nick, I was thinking like a a nickname from like the WWE days. For Ferrari, you have basically J&J Security, Josh and Jack being together.
Fair.
That's why I figured I
Fair.
was like
I think it's
J&J
fair.
Security, you know?
Yeah.
Let's see.
Second Williams is up for grabs,
Luca
like I said.
full time in Mercedes.
As well.
That's a good one too.
Yes. Yeah. Oh. Got all champions on the grid except for Molly, who won his in season 2.
Hmm.
So, you know,
Well, there is only
It's a
there
lot.
is only one seat open for Tier 1 Season 10 next season. It's Williams. Williams has yet to get a second driver. And with only a
It sounds
couple
like he's gonna put
races
Wavy in
left,
the
who
car.
knows who will be?
He sounds like he's gonna put Wavy in the car from what I'm hearing. I snooped in on his and Florian's stream yesterday, Beatnik and Florian's, and it does sound like he's seeing his options. He said he's gonna decide, and it's gonna be announced at Abu Dhabi, which is 2 rounds from now. So I'll take it as it is. But with Wavy coming back next week after his bans get lifted in Tier 2 and Tier 1, Beatnik does want to put him in at least one of the cars, whether that be in Tier 1 or Tier 2. I'm not sure, but Tier 2 seats are also filling up too. We covered that slightly on the Tier 2 stream. We should have it updated here for next week for Tier 2 when we talk about it then. But, a lot of seats are filling up. And yeah, you said one seat left. I think, before we make any predictions for this session, I must say, I think some of the drivers like Reese and a couple others hinted at Season 4 and Season 6 being some of RPL's most competitive seasons. I look at next season being probably the one that tops that as of right now with who is on the grid and whatnot. I I was a little disrespectful maybe to Zakaria with what I said in the Discord. I said Zakaria is the only one who could say is not the one that's the most competitive there. But at the end of the day, Zakaria on his day can do the right thing and can get a good result. He does need the right person partnering him, though, in my opinion. And he did show in those Tier 2 races when he dropped down. He did decent. He didn't get results, but he ended up being fast up there on the pace and everything else. So, even if Zakaria does stick to Tier 1, it's depending on his choice from what Beatnik told me, whether it's Tier 1 or Tier 2, I'm interested to see what Zakaria can do. He is probably the weak link of that Tier 1 lineup, like I did mention, but he's not even that weak of a link anyway, though. He just needs to go back to his beginning of the season ways and have great pace and find what he once had, really, in RPL. That's what I think, personally. But next season, I think, is going to be one of the most competitive, if not the most competitive, from what we're shaping up to have so far.
I completely agree with you. I mean, seeing that group as it is, the Tier 1 Season 10 lineup, it is, in my opinion, probably the most stacked field I've ever seen. I mean, and when you were mentioning about Wavy, for those of you that do not know, Wavy's when Ryan mentioned his season ban, Wavy's season ban actually is gonna be fully completed once this race is concluded. Wavy will be
Correct.
available and racing again. So who knows? I'd say probably. Wait, what round is next for Tier 2? What's the track for Tier 2 next this
10.
coming Friday?
10 at Mexico.
Mexico. I wouldn't be surprised if Wavy makes his appearance at Tier 2 Mexico this coming Friday.
Yeah, all factors have to go right. Tier 2 attendance, I mean, it's been iffy the last couple of rounds in some way, but I think overall it has been getting better, I must say. And Wavy Racing can only improve that. Drivers setting lap times, everyone out on track. The session with the wet conditions is supposed to improve from what I've heard. You see Korsman go third fastest. Redfire just went fourth fastest. Redfire's got 2 podiums at this racetrack. Reese goes second fastest. Ads comes to the line. Goes fastest for Mercedes. Next, we're going to watch AlphaTauri's to Chiller in the last sector. He's one of 3 drivers who have to complete a lap. This turn right here that we're going through, this left-hander, so tricky. So tricky to nail, not only in the wet, but also the dry. Last game, one of the hardest corners on traction. Also comes through the last braking zone. One of the other drivers just had a lap. That was Borbin going fourth. What can Chiller do, who has not had points the last couple of rounds? In fact, won a title in Season 1 around the time of this race. He only is 11th fastest to Chiller, so he's going to need a little bit more to improve. Next up is Boss Cookie, the last one to set a lap. It is going to be, by the way, Cryptic P2. It is going to be P9 for Boss Cookie, so 6/10 to the top of the board needed to get into Q2.
Well, that is quite impressive to see Ads at the top of the board and Bourbon sitting in 5th in an Aston Martin. I mean, don't with some of these drivers, there are some drivers that they have like good pace, they have like really good pace in the drives and I'm losing track of my words. But yeah, some of the drivers, they're good, and then some of them have some really good pace when dry conditions. But then when they get the wet conditions, they somehow actually excel stronger than they do in the dry conditions. Ads is an example of it. There's been a few times in wet condition races he's actually shown he's actually quicker and more efficient than in the dry conditions. Red Fire Tiger, another example is that. I just watched Boss
Yes.
Cookie go for a spin in the penultimate corner. But yeah, Red Fire is another example of a driver who excels in the wet conditions, especially on the right track. Because bear in mind, 2 seasons ago, the guy almost won the Netherlands in the McLaren. Unfortunately, he got
Yes.
bested by the Ferrari of Jacob, but he still put on one heck of a showing. So, I mean, when push comes to shove, some of these drivers, if push comes to shove in wet conditions, they can actually perform just as strong or even stronger than they do in the dries.
We're just on board with TB. He just went fifth fastest, and he's improving as well. Ads also in this last sector improving. The track is drying up. It doesn't look like there's any rain that is still coming down as Annex goes fastest for Alfa Romeo. This may be whoever gets the last lap in this session. Korsman P2. Ads was improving. Is he going to improve by the line? Yes, he will. Fastest of them all, 15-1. So the benchmark is getting much better to get in. Redfire, you just mentioned some good races. Well, he could not improve on that lap, but I think he is likely going to go to the pit lane and go for some dry tires as some of the other drivers are doing. It's not good enough for dry tires just yet, but it will be very soon. Borbin just went second fastest for Aston Martin, improving by 5/10 right there. I'm trying to find a driver to stick on board with here. Is TB improving? Yes, he is. 2/10 up on the time. TB won the championship last season at this racetrack for Ferrari. Ferrari's last champion. He comes to the line for Alpine. Here he comes. Sixth fastest. So the times are closer. L74G, he is tied with his lap time.
Yeah, TB 6 fastest, only a millisecond clear of L74G at the moment. Currently on board with Red Fire right now. Wonder if he's showing some improvement. Yeah, he is, just a little bit, a little over a tenth. But yeah, with some of these guys, as these guys are roaring around on the track, that little bit of the dry line is starting to reappear, which means these times are going to slightly get even faster. But I mean, track is still just a tiny bit too wet for the for dry tires to make their return. I probably wouldn't be surprised if maybe at the very end of Q2 we might see maybe someone taking a chance on the dry compound tires, but
Oh,
I'd
they
say
definitely will.
possibly we may see it again in Q3.
Well, it surely will be in Q3. I mean, with what I saw in the 60 minutes there, but I think they will try the dry tire just because look at this track. It's just moments away between that switch period, and like we saw, when I talked about the switch period in Q1, I mean, how much longer did it take for the track to get enough for inners? It took about a good 4 or 5 minutes. So like I said, I think that this will be the last, whoever is the last one to come to the line gets the best lap if possible. But Titan, with only Josh on track to complete a lap right now, at least drivers that are improving, let's make our predictions for who's going to get knocked out here in Q2. We can't really predict a pole time yet, with all this commotion, as well as the switch in conditions, but we can predict a bottom 5. I'm going to go with Boss Cookie, the Chiller, Hunted. I'll keep Stenner there, and I think, personally, with those guys in the bottom 5, I want to see Annex get through for Alfa Romeo, but the thing is, he's just been P11 at best the last couple of weeks. I think that streak does continue, sadly. He has a good enough time to get through as of right now, but track is going to be ramping up. As you can see, Josh sliding right there through a turn 5, turn 6 area. That is a tricky section on this racetrack.
Yeah, very much so. If I had to put my prediction on what it is, oh, DRS enabled.
There you go. There's your sign.
Which
As you were
one's gonna
saying?
come out and just go for it with the sauce? Well, I mean, a lot of these guys are gonna come out with the sauce, but uh, good lord, who am I gonna pick for my bottom 5? Uh, well, I'm gonna agree with you on two individuals. I'm gonna say the Alpha Towers, Boss Cookie and the Chiller. I think they're gonna be knocked out. Um, Stenner, uh, maybe not Stenner. I think Stenner might pull a surprise and maybe sneak his way in. Hunted, I think is not gonna make it. Uh, I'm probably also gonna pick the new guy of TTM Barney. I think he's gonna get knocked out. As for my last pick, uh, I'm
It's
gonna go
tough.
genuinely insane. I'm gonna say uh, I'm gonna go insane and choose Bourbon. I think when these guys come out, get their sauce in, a lot of the other guys are just gonna ramp up, smacking their times hard, and just
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, I'm going with the Alpha Tauris, Hunted, and both Astons. That's who my bottom five is.
I mean, DRS is enabled, but it doesn't mean times are going to necessarily be good enough for the dry tires completely. It is good enough for the dry tires to where times will improve, no doubt about it. We just saw Josh go fastest by 5/10, but he did that in inters, and that's how you can tell it's going to improve. But like I said, it may be whoever the last one is on track, and it may be who got the right tires on. We're gonna go on board with some guys on laps here. There's Red Bull coming out. We'll stay on board with that lap and talk about the circuit. But Titan, disappointments, surprises from Q1, getting through and getting knocked out. Surprises getting through, both Avataris for me, Hunted as well. Disappointments from getting eliminated, simply Jack Miles. Jack Miles, I mean, we talked about this slightly last week. I don't know how in the world this guy does not have a podium in that Ferrari. He has a podium in 6 different constructors, except for that one out of this one that he's raced. You know, he doesn't have a podium with 4 constructors similar to Luke, but that is what takes him away from the rest. And he's not finished outside the points in Spain, so that is a good sight, but he's starting back there, though, so that's the problem.
Well, I did just see in the RPL driver chat on Discord, Jack actually says now the real fun begins. So I guess even though he was knocked out, I'm guessing this track, especially since it's Brazil, maybe Jack might be doing a Lewis, starting way at the back and just work his way up to finishing in first.
Man, I would love to see that. If only Jack has the pace for it, that'd be amazing. Last week he did the 2-stop, didn't work out for him. He was just shy of getting within that fight for a podium. He hasn't had a podium in RPL since running an Alfa Romeo earlier in the season. Gone to Ferrari, got signed there, going to be there for next season. But now we head to our Tier 1 champion, Reese, who has not DNF'd in a single RPL race since round 19, Circuit of the Americas last season. We're at round number 20 on the season. Brazil, a completely new season later, excuse me. With that being said, everyone out on track with him, 0.8 of an improvement. So Reese is setting himself up here for 1 lap to start, a 2nd lap to go with it. And he could be turning his battery off in the middle sector simply just to save that battery for the rest of the lap. We'll find out. A minute remains. He will get a 2nd lap, but will not be the last one to the flag in terms of the other drivers. We'll see who is the last one to the flag, but everybody out on track should make it back. There is the Chiller on a lap. Now Reese coming through here. Alex Albon got absolutely turned around at this corner. All these corners in the middle sector are tough ones to overtake at, which makes it so much fun for us to see the drivers take control of it. 3 seconds up on the time is Reese. If we continue at this rate, we're going to see tons of surprises get knocked out of this session. Reese, the first one across the line of them all. Reese, the champion, clinched last week. He did it in over 100 races of RPL. Comes to the line fastest for now. Boss Cookie will get a 5+ grip penalty. Illegal blocking. That's all the drivers getting swarmed up in the middle sector. However, they're all starting laps, and some of them just completing laps.
Yeah, right in that penultimate corner, these guys were slowing down to let the people ahead go forward so they can get their final lap in. But the game was like,
And
no,
Barney
we
is
don't
out.
allow that. You're getting your
Barney's just
penalty. And Josh did not make it in time.
Wow, I thought he was going to make it. He must have got held up there. Barney invalidated, by the way, Titan. I was just about to cut in and say that. My apologies right there. He'll be the first one to the line, but that is not good news for the driver making his debut. So you got one prediction right. Talk about other predictions. How about Cryptic here? How fast can he go for Red Bull? Red Bull in the day they can win the Constructors has a Mercedes towing behind. Where do they go? Coming to the line. The Chiller second. Cryptic second. Ads now takes over second. And behind that, the times keep swarming in. Korsman to the line. Korsman is in. He's fastest. However, will Josh get knocked out with that time? Bourbon goes fastest. Next is the Alfa Romeo of Hunted. Hunted goes P3. It's a ways back till TB, but right now, it's not looking safe for Josh.
Yeah, TB now comes across the line. He's fastest. Luke responds. He's fastest. The times are just flying in. Red Fire goes to second. Here comes Stenner.
The Chiller's
Stenner's
out.
Sixth fastest. Josh is eliminated.
Cryptic's
Cryptic
out.
eliminated.
Cookie's out. Ads, who was the second one who set the time right there, as everybody gets a time in there at the end, except for Josh. Ads, who set the second time there to come across the line, is out of qualifying. At least the second valid lap. Barney couldn't get a valid lap. Josh improved, but was not improving enough in that lap to get better, to get through. He obviously couldn't get to the line in time. Both AlphaTauris out. The Chiller was second fastest for a moment. Cookie was up there. Cryptic was second fastest for a moment. And it's 2000s to get through between Ads and Cookie. Reese almost got knocked out as well.
Yeah, Reese ninth out of that entire field, but two massive upsets. Cryptic has to settle to start in 12th, and Josh just couldn't get a time in, and he gets knocked out at 14th. Now, bear in mind, with Boss Cookie having that 5-place grid drop, instead of him starting in 11th, he is going to be starting in 16th place. So that means Cryptic will be starting 11th, the Chiller will be 12th, Josh 13, Barney 14th, and Beatnik will be starting P15 in the race.
Well, getting through to Q3, we have a couple different teams. We have both Mercedes through, we have both McLarens through, and how about both Alfa Romeos through? We just saw our bottom five. We'll go and scroll down, but Luke, Redfire, and Annex the top three. With that said, we have 4, 5, 6, 7 different teams in Q3, so very nice, but some of the teams you just wouldn't expect. With that said, Ferrari have both cars out, AlphaTauri have both cars out, and Williams both cars out. They are not in Q3. One other thing to mention, I spoke to Tier 2 winner from this past weekend with Hunted in Qatar prior to this race. He said, I'm going to get into Q3. Well, I did not know he was being serious by that, because both Alfa Romeos into Q3, much needed for them. They sit 8th in the Constructors' race to not finish last with 25 points. Haas at 22.
Mind if I cut in for just a sec?
Go ahead, yeah.
So, I just looked at the driver's chat. Josh had a timing glitch because before he crossed the line, his timer said to him that he had over 20 seconds left before getting to the line, and when the car when the game took control of his car, he was just passing the pit lane. But Josh said on his timer on his end, he had 20 seconds left, and he got basically the timing glitch. So semi sort of a glitch, kind of sort of screwed Josh over.
A dry Q3 though is, as I was saying, Alfa Romeo 25 points in the Constructors table, P8. Both cars in. Haas, P9, 22 points in their board. And Williams sit last, just 1 point behind Haas. So that's why this qualifying session is very vital for some of these teams in it, such as Alfa Romeo and Haas. Mercedes clinched P3, so they're not at worry. McLaren and Aston, that's a battle that might not see an overtake. That will be decided after today's race. Aston have a car in. McLaren have both cars in. That's that battle for P4 and P5. Alpine are in a battle with AlphaTauri, so if they somehow get up there, that is thanks to TB. And one other thing, a battle for P3 onwards, well, P2 technically onwards in the championship site. They're not here. Cryptic, as we see Hunted spin. Cryptic just a total of 32 points back from Scyther. The Chiller holds on to P4 by just 5 points over Jack, and TB 2 points behind Jack. So, we have the Alfa Romeo of Annex starting a lap. We'll go on board with him. But in the meantime, let's get some predictions here. Top 3 in the session. I'm going to go with a big surprise here. I'm going to say the top 3 in no particular order. I'm not going to predict a pole time because we just had a wet qualifying through Q1 and Q2. The top 3 is going to be Reese, Luke, and Korsman. I think Redfire will just be barely off these guys. Same with Ads, who won in his last start at USA. So, what's your predictions, Titan?
Ironically, I was also going to be saying the same, with Reese and Korsman being in the top 3. But I'm actually going to slightly switch it up and go with a direct prediction. I'm going to say Korsman will be P3, Ads will be 2nd, and Reese will be on pole. And the pole time I'm predicting is going to be between 8.3 to 8.5.
All right, interesting enough. We have
Actually,
McLaren crossing
no,
the line.
I changed my mind. Not 8.3. 7.7. That's what I'm putting that as. 7.7.
Alrighty. We've got Stenner and Bourbon about to start a lap, but some drivers are crossing the line. I'll go on board with Bourbon. We've not given you a full commentary on this circuit. We have a spin in the back. That was a Mercedes.
Yeah, that's
By
Ads.
the way, another Mercedes comes to the pits. That was Luke. Now it's Bourbon and the Aston Martin. Turn 1. I want to go toward the white line. Don't clip the grass, though. Arc your entry. Go to the curb. Don't use the curb too much, but inside curb for turn 2. Easy to invalidate there. Hug the curb toward turn 3, but don't touch it entirely. Reese 2nd fastest, TB 4th fastest. On the run to turn 4, DRS applied. Battery should be below 60%, or you're not doing something right. Now, turn 4 and 5 here. A very tricky section to kind of nail. However, on the run to turn 6, again, similar to that arc the corner. A little too much of an entry there from Bourbon. Could very well mess you up. It did mess him up a little bit here for turn 8. Turn 9 toward the inside curve. 3rd gear through here. You don't want to be in 2nd. That will mess you up. Alex Albon corner. Turn 10. You want to be toward that inside. Again, different lines you can take through that corner. We'll see when drivers defend how they do with that. 51.8 here at the middle sector. Turn 12 now. Again, last braking zone, but not the last corner. You have 13, 14, and 15 here on the run to the line, but they really do not count as much of corners as they do to most people. To the line, Bourbon, 6th fastest. Ties TB's time, in fact.
Yeah, Bourbon ties TB on that one. Very good timing there. Since TB got his time first, that's why he is ahead. Unfortunately had to back down to the pits because I think where he spun off, not only did he invalidate the time that he was on prior, but the game also invalidated his next lap as well. So currently the only one left now to get a lap completed across the board, that's going to be Stenner. Stenner works his way down to cross the line, and his time, wow, 3rd fastest.
Amazing
Did not
from
expect
Stenner.
that.
You know, Titan, he leads the penalty standings. You know? You'd think he invalidated his lap time or something. He didn't, with how fast he went. He didn't. He kept it on the track. Fair play to Stenner. He deserves the credit. Titan, how about you give a little description here of Luke on board with what this track is like. The driver who has won most here at Brazil and got the most podiums in RPL at this track.
Wait, who's got the most wins, the most podiums at this track?
Go on board with him and talk us through the lap.
Oh. Oh, you kind of caught me off on that one. I
My apologies.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised on that one.
Well, I'll take over.
Gerard's here.
Luke is Yep, he is. So he'll be in the Alpine.
Yep.
I think. Yep. Yeah. Luke is going purple in the middle sector. It could be a fake purple. It may not be a fake purple. However, he's not set a lap, so it's hard to tell. Comes to the line this time in his Mercedes. Like I said to you, Titan, most wins here, most podiums of any driver. Can he get back on top here at Brazil? Comes to the line, 8-2. Third fastest, just barely off.
Well, that's a very good showing from Luke. So, ironically, at the moment right now, your prediction is looking dead on right now because all three of your guys are in the top three.
The only driver I think who could say something about it is Ads or Red Fire.
Yeah. Um, I know one thing when you were mentioning about when we mentioned a little bit about Stenner, going that high up in the Haas. You know that what's really interesting is that Stenner, he's not going to be in Tier 1 next season. He's going to Tier
Correct?
2 in Ferrari next season.
That is correct. Got a fair point there.
And speaking about with Tier 2, as I have the little sheet, I have the little sheet right in front of me here. For those people that are interested about with Tier 2, there's
Aaron
only
Senna, Jack
5
says.
seats left available for Tier 2. There's Alfa Romeo, Haas, and Williams. They're looking for a second driver. And Alpha Tauri. They've yet to even announce any of their drivers for the roster.
Yeah. Cookie was saying how it's tough to get drivers to be in that AlphaTauri because they want the main Red Bull. But I've spoke to Bonkers. He's coming back next season, so it's not like anyone's gonna take that from him at Red Bull. We go to Las Vegas. He won Tier 2 in Las Vegas there when they raced there for their only time as we go to Las Vegas next week. For FYI, this track will be on the calendar next season, so that should be released soon. Admins have said it will be released soon, so we'll keep you up to date on when that will be. But drivers look to be coming out on track for their final runs. I'm just going to give a rundown on some drivers quickly for a moment here, Titan, with some drivers in the session. Red Fire's best finish of the season, P6, trying to improve on that. He's got a good qualifying to do just that. We have Bourbon, who has been in the points in all but one start this season. He's not started every race, but he started probably about half of them. Last week with Korsman winning, he's won in 2 different teams, 2 different seasons, and he's the first McLaren winner since Joe Loke in Season 7. Fair credit to him. And lastly, Annex, 6 consecutive points finishes.
Yeah, and in this top 10, there are quite a few drivers that have wins to their names. Korsman, past race winner. Reese, multi-time race winner. Luke and reigning champion. Luke, another multi-time race winner, multi-time champion. Stenner, past race winner. TB, was the season 8 champion, another multi-time winner. Bourbon, same multi-time winner. Ads has a win to his name. But yeah, that just leaves Red Fire, Annex, and Hunted. They're the only 3 in that top 10 that don't have wins to their credit in Tier 1. The rest have.
Absolutely.
But if I had to
Make
put
a
a
name for
prediction,
themselves.
if I had to put together how many wins the 7 winners in the top 10 have, it's gotta be over 70. Well over 70.
Surely.
That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. We got Bourbon coming through the final sector, improving by 6/10. Bourbon is looking for a top 3 start here for Aston Martin. Don't count them out. They got a podium in Singapore. They've had multiple podiums this season so far. We mentioned Bourbon, who's gone well here, qualified well for Williams and USA, comes to the line. Bourbon is 3rd fastest, the highest Mercedes Academy car. Next across the line is Ads. He starts a lap, but behind that, Hunted is spinning. Yes, Hunted was up by 7/10, couldn't do it. We'll go on board with the driver starting a lap. That was Ads in the Mercedes. Actually, he invalidated, so he will not go on board with him. We'll go on board with the Alfa Romeo of Annex. Annex, we mentioned him and Hunted. I think they have a really bright future here in RPL. Annex is changing teams next season. Won't be with Red Bull, but I do see it going well for him and Annex. Hunted and Annex, that is. TB to the line. TB's improving. TB goes fourth. Very nicely done. Now Annex improving by a 10th. So here come the final laps. Everyone will get to the line except for Luke, it looks like. Reese goes pole, though. 7-7. Luke couldn't hit the checkered flag, so Luke will not improve. Only be a best of 5th. TB beat him on that one. And next is Ads. Ads invalidated, so not going to mean much. Bourbon behind on an in-lap, and then it's up to the other drivers to beat Reese at the top of the table, who won the championship, ends up having no DNFs in the last 21 races. He's been consistent. He stayed consistent, stayed calm, stayed cool, and currently on provisional pole, but can he keep it? Annex comes to the line. This could be his best start in RPL. To the line. 6th fastest for Alfa Romeo. Nice showing. Next is the McLaren. Red Fire, then Korsman. Red Fire goes 4th fastest. Korsman to the line. Korsman improving. Korsman back-to-back front rows, but not a pole. Next is the Haas. That is Stenner. Stenner improving as well, but is it enough? No, it is not. It is going to be Reese Dainty on pole position, and it is his first after a championship won last week.
And the pole time dead on to what I thought of was a 7-7. Now, when he spun out in the penultimate corner, the thing that really sucked, in Sector 2, Hunted was 8/10 up after Sector 2, so he was looking for a mid to low 8s, possibly, for his time, but it just went all to naught for him there.
All right, here's your qualifying order. Both McLarens inside the top 5. Red Fire has taken previous podiums here. He took 2 podiums here in the last 2 seasons, in fact. The Chiller won here season 1, so we'll see if he tries to, take revenge on that one, but I doubt it. He's in an AlphaTauri. Reese, on pole position. Korsman P2, just 65 thousandths behind. They separate the field quite nicely over Bourbon and Red Fire. TB rounds at the top 5, a much-needed P5 for him and Alpine. If he can get a good start, I'd like to see what he can do. Luke P6, a little disappointment. He couldn't get to the line. Annex P7, Stenner P8 for Haas, Hunted P9 for Alfa Romeo, and Ads could not get in a lap time. He invalidated there in the opening sector. That costed him majorly. Alfa Romeo, though, the nice surprise. They have got 7 points scored since Miami. Not a whole lot, but they could score some more here today, with that being said, with their good qualifying.
Very true indeed. I'm just taking a look at the driver chat again. Korsman says, "Man, I choked." And Luke responded, said, "You choked. I ran out of time."
I saw that. That is amazing.
Silly banter for there.
Yes.
Well, we still have 7 people watching the stream, so if you're so I might as well just mention this little piece. For those that are still watching, thank you for being part and watching the stream here. Why don't you guys put in your predictions? Who do you think is going to come out on top in Brazil today?
Strategy, soft to hard, medium to hard. Either revert strategy could be used. You're going to see pit stops anywhere from lap 12 to 20 if it's from the soft or medium tires you start on. If it's from the hards, they will likely extend a little bit later. We'll find out here. Light's about to come on. We do have some predictions coming in. AC Lion, good to see you in chat. Hard tires for most, medium tires for some, soft tires for one. That soft tires? How about beating it, going for some gambling? Speaking of gambling, we're in Vegas next week. His home race, in a way. Used to be a previous Vegas native. We'll see how he does there. Here we go. About to come on for the 5 red lights in just a moment. Strategies, fuel, everything else. Get it done now. Here come the 5 red lights for Brazil. Lights are out, away we go. Reese didn't get the best of starts, but he's going to be able to cover off Korsman quite well. Korsman didn't get well in the second phase. Borbin looking to his inside. Redfire there in the background gives him a couple taps side by side with TB. TB to fourth. And now in the background, you can see a Mercedes and a Haas a little off there from them. Going off the circuit, a Ferrari in the background, losing places. That was Josh, and now they swarm out. Luke trying to defend from Stenner for P6. Stenner and Annex follow. Side by side with Cryptic and Hunted. Hunted off the road. Hunted gives up the place to Ads and Cryptic. Cryptic with an amazing start for Red Bull, and now they jockey it out on the run to Sector 2. They all go single file. Beanick spinning. Beanick is around. Beanick with throwing damage going up in the air from the background from some car. Don't know which one it was. He got wide. Got in the marbles, spun there at turn 6. Trouble for him as Annex sends Stenner. Stenner goes around. Cryptic is off in the grass, comes back on, luckily safely it looks like, but all drivers having to take evasive action. DeChiller gets him. Multiple drivers in chaos on lap 1, but the top 5, top 6 stayed calm, it looked like.
Yeah, right at the start, Josh went very wide in turn 1. That's why he's all the way down in last. We did see Beatnik just getting loose and go for a spin around into, just going for a spin in turn number 6, and then Stenner getting smacked over by Annex and went for that dive bomb shot into one of those switchback corners. But Stenner's still in the top 10, though. That's not bad for him, but he's got Cryptic all over his back end.
Jack Miles up 4 places. Groggers and Grandpa had to pit. Here goes side by side Stenner and Cryptic. You don't usually see it there, but they were very, very careful about it. Nicely done from them, and now this train of cars follows behind them. Where in that train, Hunted and Stenner, they lost 3 places. Jack, with his teammate now trying to go up a place after losing it out on the start. They're going wide at turn 2, you saw, and also up 7 places for Cookie. Very well done. He's had 5 fastest laps this season. He wants to add some points to it, and also adds up 3. The big losers, though, look to be Hunted, Stenner, Red Fire down 2, and also in that list I have to include Josh, Beatnik, and Groggers.
Very true indeed. DRS is now enabled as Korsman sets the fastest lap of this race so far. And way far in the back, Josh getting past TTM Barney to get into the 15th place position. Luke clearing Red Fire to get into P5. TB clearing Bourbon to get himself into P3. And 2 Alpine Academy cars in the top 3 right now.
How about that? Alpine have not had a podium since last season, let alone a win since last season. Korsman was the one to was one of them to do it. He is currently closing in on Reese, and they've gapped themselves ahead of that top 3. This podium fight is now wide open for these drivers with that qualifying session that we had on our hands.
Yeah, I'm on board with Korsman right now. He is all over the back of Reese. He's just eyeing up the reigning champion to see if he will make a mistake. I mean, Reese currently has about 50% on ERS. Korsman has barely even touched it. Here he goes down the inside on the main straight. We have a new leader. Korsman takes the lead from Reese.
Luke battles back to get to P4 on Bourbon. Luke didn't have the best of sorts. He got put down the order a bit. Beatnik and Shanghai, the 2 Williams teammates, trade spots, but now back for the lead. Reese couldn't keep Korsman at bay, but Reese gets the overtake done. Re-overtakes him for the lead. Nicely done from the champion. Also behind that, Hunted gets Stenner. The Academy teammates, it's Alpha, Haas, and Ferrari following. And how about another Italian team behind a Ferrari with DeChiller in a Ferrari sandwich?
Very true indeed. Yeah, so currently right now, Jack has gained 6 spots from his start. He started all the way in 19th. Well, Bourbon just went off the track, crashing off some of the barriers. Some of the little sign barrier posts. But still maintains that 5th place spot. But that little wibble wobble that he was having resulted in Ads getting slightly held up and resulted in Red Fire taking advantage and took P6 from Ads.
Red Fire touch with Ads there at the same time. Luke gets TB started to cut in. Behind that, Redfire gets Bourbon, this time without contact. And behind that, you see Jack and Josh putting up their fights. Some against a Ferrari Academy teammate, the other against a Chiller. We have Stanner going wide at turn 1. That's going to compromise his line. Spinning goes Hunted around. There could have been contact. We don't know if there was. But now Crash at turn 3. The Chiller is around.
The Chiller off and around in turn at the bottom of the center S. Not sure what happened to the Chiller there. I just also saw a little bit ago. I know Luke was mentioning, he says it might be a you problem, but Luke, I hate to say it, buddy, but I think these guys are right. Luke is having a bit of a lag problem on his end. I just noticed it when I was on board with TB.
Yeah. I've not noticed much, but I can see his car's a little twitchier than normal, so that may indicate that. The good thing with Luke, though, and take, for example, a guy like Jack, who, you know, didn't take advantage of that 2-stop last week. Luke, another one, too. Luke did get held up in the pit lane, could have been on for P4. With that said, this train that Luke has right now goes all the way back to P10, and speaking of that, the back of this train scene overtakes with Cryptic and Boss Cookie. Cookie wants to have a fight back at it, but can't do so. With this back of the train is Hunted pits for damage. Jack is 3.6 seconds back. You said something about Jack previous to this race with his poor qualifying. Well, you know what? He could catch up to this train if they just continue to battle and sit in DRS at one another. It's not going to help it at all by these guys just continuously sitting in DRS. They're not pulling each other along like you think they would, but if Jack has the pace and Jack can find something, he brings Josh along with him for our chance at a Constructors' Championship today. Don't help themselves not being in the points, but closing up to this train with battling, well, that does help themselves with Red Bull running P9 and P1.
Looks like Center just got himself into the penalty club at the start of the switchbacks. But yeah, as you mentioned it, Jack nearly getting himself into the points. He's got Josh right behind him. Cryptic all over the back of Annex, as these guys are literally having a miniature train, well, decent-sized train, from Luke all the way down to Boss Cookie. I'm just wondering which one is actually planning on taking a bite first for it, but looks like the train might be falling apart just a tiny bit. I think Redfire is just out of DRS range against TB. Hope he still has it.
He had it on the front straight too. He was lucky enough to be within that gap. TB gets Luke while that happens. In the background, you can see the Red Bull pulling out on Annex. Move done right there. Josh and Jack, the two Ferraris, trade spots. Josh looks to be going faster than Jack, so Jack might have chose to swap with him. But now, Korsman backed out there into turn 1, backed out there into turn 4. I mean, Reese is using tons of battery. I mean, he's down below 50%. Korsman's fully charged. You know, if we do get no safety car to hinder any pit stops as Beatnik gets Stenner. With that said, we've had, out of the last 11 races, only 4 races had a full safety car in it. So this is a good chance of happening where we'll see a pit stop loss of 20 seconds and you gain 23% back in the pit lane. You know, Korsman can use battery and still be at full percent where Reese could not right now. That's the issue. And here he comes. Korsman ducking out to the outside line, makes the move, regains the race lead. Behind that, TB and Luke now fight for P3.
As TB stays ahead of Luke, as Luke went a little wide in turn 1, had a bit of an unfortunate poor entry into turn 2. That leads TB to take complete advantage to pull a bit of a gap, which means Luke will have a chance to go at it. Looks like we have a spin in the back. That is Gerard around in the penultimate corner.
Well, that's not beneficial to him. He didn't get to qualify, so we'll see what kind of struggles he's had. Trying to prep himself for this race in Tier 2 at the finale, which, in fact, if you want to tune in for that, they're at Mexico next week. They have a championship battle among us, so it should be fun to see who chooses to get a little sus there with 3 drivers still in play for that title.
Did you just say Among Us? Kind of sus.
Cryptic goes on Bourbon. And yes, Cryptic was sus right there because Cryptic did duck out and made a really good move. I don't know if you caught that, but fair play to Cryptic. I did say sus. I did say Among Us. And Among Us, we're having a good race on our hands. Lap number 9 of this race.
No, I just noticed I was on board with Bourbon. Cryptic His light was blinking when he passed Bourbon. Cryptic has virtually no ERS left.
Neither does Reese. He's having to sit behind Korsman. Luke down the inside gets through on TB. Nicely done from Luke.
That was a
Josh
very
and Jack.
good overtake.
Trade spots too. Yes, absolutely. TB. Oh, that was lag from Luke. That was exactly what you were talking about.
Yeah, Luke is just Luke is lagging kind of scroungy on these last couple of corners. I thought we got tricked. We were like, yeah, TV's gonna go for the attack, and then Luke just teleports right in front. Like yeah, Luke unfortunately having some lag issues. I mean, I just hope it doesn't get too bad like it did to Reese and Monza.
Oh God. Well, I don't want a accordion effect with lag going on. That'd be terrible. Reese dances around Korsman to take the race lead back. He did gain some ERS by sitting behind him. Ads gets Redfire as well. Redfire back down the inside, though. Can he get the place? Gaining on the outside there. Causes Ads to make a mistake. Now inside line for the next corner. For the lead now, Korsman does not go back past. TB does go back past Luke, but not without any lag issues right there for Luke once again.
Yeah, Alpine Academy cars are really doing something.
This is amazing.
Because I mean, you have Redfire battling Ads, you had TB brawling with Luke, and Korsman battling with Reese.
Oh!
Woo! That was close.
That was very close. Wow.
But yeah, literally 3 Alpine Academy cars putting up the fight against a Mercedes pair and a Red Bull. This is just wild.
Amazing. Amazing. You know, they deserve this. Alpine, no podium this season. McLaren just got their first win this season. First in Season 7. With Joe Loke, it was in that race at France. You know, I do know it was mentioned, as we are going to see an overtake with Luke and TB again. I do know it was mentioned the fact that, oh, hey, you know, Titan helped get Ferrari's first Drivers' Championship back, you know, since Season 1 with the Chiller, and how, well, it wasn't always down to Titan 2, it was some of the drivers, which, fair play, it wasn't all down to you, but I must say, it is helping a little bit with your Alpine role you have now as co-TP, because TB gets back pass, TB onto the podium, could take his first podium for Alpine, since he was in a Red Bull to start the season, and Jack and Josh just continue to DRS off each other. It is helping them, in fact, because they are catching these guys at the back of this train.
Yeah, back on lap 5, Josh and Jack were almost 4 seconds behind Boss Cookie in 10th. Now they closed it down to within under 2 seconds. So Josh and Jack, they gained just over 2 seconds in the span of 5 laps. I mean, to some they may be thinking, oh, that ain't that big of a gain, but here's the thing. Even if it's not by much, gaining something is better than not gaining anything at all or losing time. So for Josh and Jack, I would not doubt that probably within the next few laps, I would not be surprised if these two get themselves into the points. As Luke is still all over the back of TB.
You want to know who was the top 3 in this race last season? The guys who were 3rd through 5th. Luke, TB, and Redfire, funny enough. And not in that exact order either. However, here comes Redfire Ads, all in a little battle, gaggle of cars. It looks to be Luke ahead of Redfire, Ads behind Redfire heading into turn 4. They all remain safely behind one another, but again, you're just backing up the cars behind that, causing, by the way, yellow flags for Groggers. Or Stenner maybe, you're causing Jack and Josh to catch up. They were 2.5 back not too long ago. Look at the gap, they're 1.5 back now. So this is just prime position for them. And this battling, it's just allowing Korsman and Reese to pull away. The good thing though for Reese is that, you know, Korsman has used a bit of the battery, maybe indicating he is going to pit soon, 64% of the battery, but Reese has been able to save a little bit while using some. He was at a worse rate quite a bit ago, saved some, now he's back where he's at 36%. So it's back and forth for Reese. It's like a comer and goer, which is what these guys are for P3 and P4 with one another. You see comers and goers. And speaking of comers and goers, Ads goes up to P5. Redfire's going to fight it back though, and Stenner is out of this race with the safety car being out.
Stenner looks like he crashed in on that far outside of turn number 11. Looks like. Just
It looks
seeing it,
odd.
yeah, he's in the far wall over there at the end of the corner. But this is going to help some of the guys that came in that were in earlier, involved in incidents earlier, like Hunted, Groggers, Gerard, and the Chiller. This will put them back up with the field. And the Williams pair took advantage and they decided, yeah, we'll pit now too.
Only 3 points since round 9, all of them in P10s for Williams. Hunted speed in the pit lane, and in fact, Titan the Chiller was about to be lapped. He was about to be lapped. So this does help him completely. So perfect for him. He won this race in Season 1. I don't think he's looking to win this time, but he's definitely looking for some points to his name. Would be perfect for him. And speaking of both Williams boys, Beatnik won this race in Tier 2. First Tier 2 win for him. So, you know what? A little extra confidence heading into this race with that being known.
I was just thinking about it when you mentioned about the Chiller being lapped. I think the Chiller just realized that himself. He's thinking, hey, I should just wait for just a second. He stays out on the track just to ensure he doesn't get lapped.
Never mind, that's lag. Holy cow.
My
Adds sped in the
goodness.
pit lane, though. That was bad. It's that bad of lag that we've seen that Redfire and TB are asking Luke to retire from this race. A lot of double stacking, though, from a lot of teams and a lot of drivers, allowing Boss Cookie to be... He was going to be P5. What happened to him? Oh, just late release. That's why. That makes sense. And he's toward the end of the pit lane. I thought he was going to be okay.
It looks like some of these guys got really affected by the double stacks and everyone coming in. Because Ads, by the way, who was 5th when he came in, he's all the way down in 11th. And has a 5-second penalty for speeding.
Yeah, that's not good. I saw Luke's on board. I thought it was Luke who was going to come in speeding, but it was just lag. It's hard to tell because you want to sit here and be like, oh, big moment, but it's not. It's just lag. Luke said no one's lagged for him in quite a while, but he is at a red bar. By the way, you mentioned who the double stack hurt. Redfire, Ads, and maybe I could say it hurt Jack a little bit, but I don't think it hurt Jack too badly personally. He did just get passed by Barney, so I guess it did hurt him a little bit, but the one person who it did help is Cryptic. Cryptic's back in this race, and he's now finished worse than P7 since Spain earlier in the season, and he's had a nice little going. So Luke said he'll stop streaming, see if that helps it, but Redfire is quite fed up with the double stack Titan. He's just said, I'm effing done. Pit stops are meant to be 1.9 seconds in double stack. It gives me 2.6 instead.
Yeah, Redfire, another driver that was affected by the double stack, like you said, and Ads as well, was heavily affected by the double stack. But it does leave with a lot of drivers getting themselves into decent positions. I mean, Josh is back into the points in 10th place right now. Boss Cookie sitting in 9th. And one driver we haven't mentioned in a while, Annex, is sitting in 7th right now. He's doing pretty decent right now, sitting in that 7th place spot. But I mean, is he possibly going to find himself in trouble for that incident that he had with Stenner earlier on in the race? Well, that's up for the stewards to decide if it gets reported.
I'm trying to think of what happened now. I don't remember. So much has happened that I don't really remember, if I'm being honest. It's kind of embarrassing that that's the case. I will say, though, he is on a different tire, though. He is on the hards. He's the first runner on the hards of anybody. He's got Boss Cookie and Josh behind him also on the hards. Everyone who pitted went for the mediums, and you sort of wonder, can they make it? Yes, but they're going to have a little bit of risk. They need to be able to not push the limits too hard, or else they won't make it. If they push the limits 95, 90%, then they should make it. The other thing, too, is people got to remember, using your battery also causes some tire wear. Doesn't cause a lot, but it is a little bit. Another thing as well is, I mean, you're being stuck in dirty air. It's not a big factor this game, but if you're over pushing it, though, like a lot, then you're going to waste your tires. And that's what will risk some of these drivers at a puncture. Again, the ideal ratio or time where these tires start to fall off, anywhere from lap 14 to 20, or lap 14. 14 to 22 laps. By the end of this race, they're going to have 22 laps done on the mediums. The risk of a puncture comes from lap. I want to say lap. I don't know why. 19 to 23 laps. So they're okay. But again, whose car is bad at tire wear? That's the problem. That's the ones that will risk this the most. Because, I mean, you know, you remember seeing this, I think, at one point on the League Racing Community page on Twitter, I believe, where each equal car has different tires. I mean, this is not an equal car league, for those of you wondering. It's obviously a realistic league, as most of you know. But the fact of the matter is, you gotta at least assume if equal cars have different tire wear with each car, then surely realistic cars have the same thing as well.
Yeah, that's completely true. I mean, with the tire wear, it varies from car to car, chassis to chassis, and driver to driver. It just depends on how they do on the management and stuff. I mean, a lot of these guys that are on the mediums, yeah, they may have to do some management for a couple of laps, but they can go the rest. They are able to do the rest of the race on this compound. Heck, I've seen a couple guys do longer than expected. Like one prime example, Owen, last season. What car was he in? I think it was either Haas or Alfa Romeo. He did 26 laps on the medium tires at this track. He did medium to soft for it.
All right, Reese controls the pace. When does he go? Safety car's in the pit lane. He's waiting. Back to the green he goes. Foot to the floor. We're racing once again. Everyone caught up, and now the racing is on. Bourbon trying to fight with Cryptic. Behind that, you see cars outside the points also trying to fight, but get your braking ready for turn one. They're all late braking, some side by side in the back. That was the Haas and the Alpine. Now, they fight on the run to turn four. Grandpa's out of this race. That's due to contact. That is with Groggers, who's got no front wing. Hunted might have had a piece in that as well, because he's fallen back a little bit too. But now, Redfire and Annex trade spots as they went side by side there. Annex has to concede the place. Now, Boss Cookie's right there for P9 in this race.
I don't see any damage on Hunted's car.
Cryptic lost it. Sorry, he had contact with Luke. Lucas stopped lagging, it looks like, but Cryptic almost went out of this race.
Talking about closer, but yeah, apparently Luke, the reason he was lagging is because not only is Luke the host of this event, the Chiller's host. I was thinking Luke was host, but Luke was streaming on his end, and Korsman actually just took the lead from Reese.
Yeah, what happened there? Reese gonna come back at it using the battery, dumping it, coming back at it with TB right behind. TB gonna give a bit of a fight, but Korsman inside line, Reese the leader. Korsman looking to the outside, Reese still the leader. Redfire picks up a penalty now, so he's part of the penalty club as Groggers pits to repair the front wing. Now on the run to turn four, you got a hungry pack of cars. Korsman following Reese, Korsman ducking out, outside line, long way around, side by side they touch, similar to Verstappen and Hamilton. Korsman keeps the outside line, but not without contact from Reese. That got tight, and that was very, very on the limit.
Yeah, they did. Korsman and Reese had a bit of rubbing on the exit of four. I think that was some good hard racing between the two. But wow, that was very tight between the two. And then they did touch. They did scrape, and Reese came out ahead of Korsman, and TB right in there as well. And Korsman gets a little slip on that penultimate corner. Let's hope it doesn't cost him too much time as he tries to hunt down Reese. But, I mean, Korsman will get DRS at the detection point in turn two, because DRS is now enabled again as Reese sets the fastest lap in this race right now with a 10-4.
Ads sends it way back inside line, and Annex makes him do a little fake right there to the outside. Also in the background, Barney got Jack Miles and Cookie in his debut race, but now Ads charges back on Annex. He's gonna look, but can't make the move. You want something to laugh at in this race? The Chillers made 4 pit stops already.
Seriously?
Yes, no joke. Ads again with a look on Annex, but can't get the move done. Is he close enough here in Sector 2 to make a little move at a corner you don't expect? No, he's not.
I don't
Yeah,
know
4 stops.
what like the most pit stops a driver has done to get into the points in Tier 1, but I think in my I mean, I could be wrong, but in regards to RPL history, the and I could be wrong. Don't I mean, correct me if I'm wrong on it, but I think in my memory is right. The driver that's done the most pit stops in RPL history and still managed to get into the points, I believe, if like I said, unless I'm proven wrong, I think it was myself back in Tier 1 of Season 1 in Monaco, where I did 7 pit stops and still finished 8th in the Haas.
Yeah, I was gonna say it would have had to been a wet race to see maybe most pit stops, but or a Monaco race, like you said. I mean, I'm gonna assume that race was dry then because, I mean, I'm gonna assume that's the most for a dry race. We'll call it most for a dry race just because wet races. I feel like there's been more. I could be wrong
It
because
was a dry race, that
tire
one.
changes. Yeah, so it's probably most for a dry race. I don't know if wet races would change it, but fair play to Darius though. He's not had points in the last couple weeks. He needs to get back on the swing of things because he is going to Red Bull next season. So, got to get some momentum while you can. Either way, they all continue in this train. It goes all the way back to 13th. Josh and Jack are in this train, but not many positions gained. With Cryptic and Reese being P1 and P5, it's enough to win the title for Red Bull in the Constructors. Here goes Jack getting ads, and now up in front of that, here goes the race lead. Ads leaves the session. He'll need an invite, but here's Korsman, here's TB. They all follow close to one another. Luke's there as well in the Mercedes. He fixed that lag issue, so now he can fight fairly. And now Korsman, not dumping any battery, but gaining on Reese and staying behind Reese.
As you were mentioning, Ads just got booted from the session. I just had to go get him back into it. Currently, right now, as you said it, Red Bull is looking on point to get another Constructors Championship because Ferrari right now are sitting 8th and 11th right now. As said earlier, Ferrari has to beat Red Bull by 27 points. And unfortunately, with Jack being knocked out in Q1, Josh getting knocked out in Q2, I mean, I really don't want to be a bit of a commentator curse on it, but I think the Ferraris going out early in qualifying might be a bit of a bad omen.
The one record they will at least have at the end of the season, it looks like, unless Boss Cookie thinks to steal it from them as Barney gets Annex, is that they have the most fastest laps of any team at 5 this season. So Ferrari have done something right with a good amount of fastest lap. AlphaTauri, though, they're behind them, tied second of all Season 9 teams. So, again, they do deserve the credit. Jack gets Barney now, a little battle back there. But, yeah, Ferrari have done something right this season. So, they're not going to put the challenge to Red Bull, it looks like, this season. But they are having some challenges here in the midfield with Josh now overtaking Annex. Annex swarming down the order, down to P11, just losing places as it continues. And Jack and Josh gained 2 places out of that, so fair play to them. They deserve that. And Cryptic's caught the back of this train as well.
Yeah, Barney, by the way, was actually trying to pass Jack for the 8th place spot, but couldn't get it done in turn number 2. And when they hit the braking zone for turn number 4, Jack was completely drained of ERS. He had absolutely no ERS when he tried to defend off against Barney. Jack did maintain it and stay in that 8th place. Unfortunately, it just cost him all of his ERS, and that was going to make him vulnerable to Barney as he's trying to see if he can try to catch up. But Josh slingshots on the outside to get past, and Josh is up into 9th place. And Luke having to deal with Cryptic.
Yeah, Cryptic and Luke just went side by side there as well. Here comes Korsman back at it. Inside line on Reese. Side by side at turn 4. Revenge tour here between them. Rematch. Here comes Reese back at it on Korsman. But Korsman keeps the race lead. Reese is going to look for it. However, he gives him the dummy.
Yeah, when it comes with Reese, he sometimes does think out of the box and comes with innovative and unique overtakes. Sometimes it's very risky, but a lot of times when he sometimes takes the risk, he goes for it. Oh my goodness, TB almost spun out, but got bumped by Luke and keeps it going. But my goodness, TB's podium life just flashed in front
Whoa!
of his eyes, and it got saved by Luke.
I mean, Cryptic's made a move on that inside line for 3 times now in that same corner, and Reese regains the race lead. Behind that, Luke and Cryptic and TB continue to fight it out for what's the podium, and everyone else seems to remain in their same spots. Well, I mean, Mercedes and Red Bull, they have cars up here. Ad's not up here, but Luke is. Both Red Bulls are. I mean, they've scored points in every round. Merc has a nice little streak going, it must be said. 33 races now. So, they're doing the right things, that must be said. Both teams, Mercedes and Red Bull. Mercedes clinched P3, have a couple wins this season. The Chiller gets hunted. Both Ferraris also swapped in the process. And Red Bull, as I was saying it, 4 Constructors titles. They won last season. They've won the last 4 Constructors titles in a row. And they've had 4 consecutive podium finishes throughout the last couple of weeks. So, and add on to that 12 P2s this season. So, like I said, just a team that is doing the right thing and a couple teams with them, but nothing like Red Bull.
Very true indeed. And I actually just got some heartbreaking news here. I just got a DM from Az when I tried to invite him back. He said, online services error 3 times in a row. I am unable to return back. So Az, sadly, is out of this race.
Well, at least for now, he might be able to return in the late stages to at least make sure that he holds on to P17. But he's in a nice little ghosted car battle at Shanghai. 2 retirements so far this race, as you're going to mention. Red Fire and Bourbon? Red Fire gets Bourbon. Fair play to Red Fire. He does have the penalty, though, but looking for best finish of the season. Yeah, with that said, 2 retirements this race. We had 1 back at Zandvoort. That was the lowest, so we're not going to get that. But what I will say we do have is just 1 Haas out. They've had a couple double DNFs this season. An Alpine out of this race. They've scored points in 6 of the last 7 races. Now relying on TB as the Chiller gets a penalty there. 6th driver to have a penalty. And with that being said, though, Titan, with what we were mentioning in terms of the drivers and teams with DNFs, Grandpa has DNF for the 4th consecutive Tier 1 race.
Yeah, very true indeed. And Grandpa's he's had some not so fun moments in tier 2. Wait, Red Fire's in the pits.
Don't know why. Did he not think he could make it? Guess not. For the lead, Reese and Korsman trade the spot. Apologies for missing that, but Korsman up into the lead once again.
I think if I was TB, who's sitting in 3rd and actually right up on Reese's tail, I'm thinking the on TB's mind, he'd be thinking, yeah, I want to get past Reese right now. I want to help my teammate out to try to see if he can pull a gap. Because, I mean, literally, it's basically 2 Alpine Academy cars versus the Red Bull pair.
It's funny because 4 of these drivers inside the top 5 have raced for Red Bull before. And in fact, all in recent seasons, Luke being the one that's furthest back. TB raced for Red Bull earlier this season. Cryptic and Reese, the 2 current Red Bull drivers. And TB got a podium with Ferrari in this race last season and won the championship, finishing behind Luke. So, you know what? I just would say, imagine what he could do in a Ferrari. Imagine what he could do in a Red Bull. Well, you know what? Alpine deserve this podium if they can just get it. That's where their last podium came with Red Fire last season in the same academy. Josh and Bourbon trade spots now, so they're having a nice little ding-dong battle with 5 cars in that train, but they also have a 5-car train in front of that they're trying to chase.
Yeah, with 10 laps to go, Ferrari is trying to get there. Whoa!
Ooh. Barney and Jack.
I was going to say, did Jack get shoved off?
Barney not playing too nice with Jack, it looks like. I don't know. Did Jack turn in, though, too? I don't know. I couldn't really see it. I just caught the tail end of it. But
yeah, that's what happened with me, too. I just caught the tail end of Jack just getting getting sent off track.
Yeah. I want to see who's the fastest lap right now, with that being said. It is Luke. So I just wanted to check just to make sure, because we have a lot of our underdog teams like AlphaTauri, Haas, who've taken fastest laps this season. Not every team has, but it's nice to look at sometimes. And if Red Bull were to reach trouble, obviously Ferrari need quite a bit of a gap to gain on. They're not going to do it as of right now. 8 laps remaining. But as we were saying, fastest laps could determine that. A lot could determine that, but Red Bull need a really bad race in order for them to lose out on winning the Constructors today. They didn't win it last week, but still, this week looks to be the case. P6 looks like a battle heading into turn number 4, but again, everyone's staying in single file. Red Fire obviously pitted there. He's in a battle with Shanghai now, but is pulling away. I don't know why he pitted that second time, but this raises a question, though. With those guys up front being on 14-lap mediums, the hards will make it, no doubt about it. But the mediums, is this a concern? I see the blue box on Reese's middle to lower right part of the screen, meaning strategy would indicate he'd be pitting. Don't know if he would, though. Jack gets Barney again, but that may be a concern, though, Titan.
Yeah, this is going to be quite interesting to say the least. Now, I did see, just take a look at the ERS deployments left for the top 5 right now. Korsman's sitting at about 75, Reese at 40, TB 45, Cryptic 50, and same with Luke. And actually, whoa! Cryptic almost lost it in turn 3. Luke also has still having some lag spikes here and there. And looks like the Chill is in now, too.
Speeds as well. He had his first retirement last week since Hungary last season, round number 9. That was around the same time that, round number 12. That was around the same time that Mercedes at round number 9 had last finished outside the points. A team that De Chiller used to also race for. So, fair play right there. I think back to the last time Alpine had a podium with Red Fire in this race last season. I don't remember. You would know. Was it wet in this race last season at any point? I feel like it was, but I'm not sure. You would remember. Luke won, TB was second, Red Fire was third, but did they get a podium in wet conditions, the Alpine, with Red Fire?
Let's see. I'm trying to think. I think so. There was
I think it was a
there was
mixed
some wet
race.
Conditions involved right in the middle of the event.
Okay. Yeah, so it must have been mixed conditions. Jack and Bourbon now. Jack slingshots past Bourbon, gets the place there, and now Groggers is out of this race. That's the safety car. Groggers retires in a similar spot to Stenner, and that is now Groggers' second DNF in a row. He had his first of the season last week, and Haas's 4th double DNF of the season. That is treacherous. Late race safety car. Things are about to get spicy.
Yeah. So Groggers crashed in that tiny little section of straightaway between turn 6 and turn 7. I'm thinking maybe what happened was he probably went up as he was coming up on the exit, touched the exit curve of turn 6, probably touched it a little too much, and just got loose and just went off into the wall. I mean, it's happened a couple of times in RPL F1 and in real life. We've seen it happen, so I mean, it is unfortunate there, but now this is going to change everything.
Who stays out, who doesn't? Top 5 are in. Ferrari's double stack. No one is staying out. It looks like Josh Speeds, though.
No,
Boss Cookie stays out. Oh, boy. Talk about gambling. Ads is back in the session. Red Fire stays out. He was banking on a safety car, but he's not going to get a top 3 back. He'll likely get a top 5 back, but has a penalty to spare. The good thing for Red Fire is with the safety car being out, look at the pit lane here. He gets to race these guys out of the pit lane, and he'll get Cryptic, but he won't get TB. So, my goodness. Well, this race just got interesting. Must be said. The Haas's, where they crashed. They crashed both in the middle sector. Stenner's car was way off there. I hate to say this, and I'm not going to say that it was, but I do have part of a feeling, and same with where Groggers crashed, just because it's a little odd with how it happened, that it could be intentional. I'm not saying it is. I'm not suggesting that it actually is, but I'm just saying I have a little bit of a feeling that there's a chance it could be, and I just... Two of the same academy cars, two of the same teammates crashing at similar areas. I would like to hope the best scenario is that Haas car is a tough one to handle and they have bad setups on, but I don't know if that's the case. I would like to know that. And I'm not trying to suggest FIA, for our international assistance, but I'm just saying.
I mean,
I don't want to be the one to suggest it.
I mean, it's very difficult to determine because...
It is.
I mean,
not unless they're streaming.
Where Groger's crashed, where he crashes is definitely a legitimate chance of where he could have had it happen because, like I said, he had it happen at the exit of turn 6. That's why I predicted maybe he got a little too much of the curb on the exit on that high side, lost control and crashed it. Stenner, his crash happened happened 3 corners later, right around in turn 10. Now, Stenner's turn 10 crash, given where he was, that looked a little, maybe little bit on the suspicious side. But
here's why I say that though, too.
I see quite a bit of legitimacy on him having a mistake and crashing.
Right.
So I see some legitimacy on error there.
I mean, Leighton says, why would it be intentional lap 10? But here's what I say, though. I mean, how often do you DNF at that corner that far off? I mean, that's the corner where Alex Albon got spun around. You don't DNF there. That's what I think, unless you're trying to. And I don't mean to be mean to Stenner by that. Maybe I could be wrong if I see a clip. That's why I suggest it is, and it's suspicious in a way. I don't want to, like I said, I don't want to suggest it is. I don't like to be that guy, and I don't like to sit here to put rumors. But... I'm just saying, there's a small chance, in my opinion, it could be. As Ad's obviously back in the session, I think just waiting for the safety car to come in at one more lap here, it might be a late call if he does catch up by the start of Sector 3 when the safety car has a chance. Doesn't look like it, so we'll talk a little bit more about this. Center gains nothing from crashing on purpose. Okay, that's fair. I agree. But that corner, you don't get a wheel coming off there. The only way you do... And I mean, he wasn't near anybody. He was crashing beforehand, so, okay, tire temps. Fine. So what he would have had happen is he would have lost the rear there, spun like Albon did, but gone into the grass. That barrier is farther back. That's why I say that. And, with his teammate crashing too, to bring out a safety car, I don't know. I don't know if Groger's a Saiyan.
I just checked the driver chat when you asked.
I don't know if he's sarcastic or not. Read that out loud. I don't know if he's sarcastic.
Yeah, I'm thinking he is. It's possible he may be sarcastic, but I mean, George said he tried to take it flat. I mean, I mean, if you really know what you're doing, you can't. You could try to take turn 6 flat out, but I mean, no offense to Grogers, but I don't think he has like the capability to try to go for that corner flat out. I mean, no offense to him.
I don't think it's him. I think it's the car that doesn't.
It's only doable for certain people.
Yeah. Ads is now catching up to the back of the safety car. I don't know if he'll be investigated for the fact that he ended up making the safety car wait another lap. Shall be interesting. Late race drama with Boss Cookie leading here. He's going to be in Red Bull next season, partnering to Chiller, but he's going to help the bigger team, Red Bull, right now, with him and an AlphaTauri, by leading this race, staying out. TB went for the mediums, everyone else on softs. Red Fire stayed out, he pitted earlier, and Cookie staying out on old hards. When does he go becomes the question. We will have DRS on the last lap, 3 lap to go shootout.
He's going to wait until just before the start-finish line to go.
On the gas now! Josh gets a drive-through. Sorry, a 5-second penalty for a collision, and they all battle behind. Reese to the inside. Had a look. They're all having a look behind that. Cryptic on Red Fire side by side with Annex and Bourbon. 3 wide in the back. Wheel to wheel to wheel, and that almost got dangerous. Now for the lead. Korsman with Reese and Bourbon, or Boss Cookie. Side by side. Korsman into the lead, and Cookie has to back out of it, but remains on the podium for AlphaTauri.
Oh!
AlphaTauri, not a podium in a while, and they crash! TB and Luke!
Luke
And they're
and
somehow
TB came
straight.
together.
TB on the inside now for 7th, or 8th, excuse me, with Jack. They race side by side in front of Bourbon and Redfire who has a penalty. Cryptic is P4, now down the inside of his teammate, goes through, and gets the place. It's chaos in the last couple laps. TB with Barney for a points position. TB has damage. Luke has damage from all that.
Yeah, the two came together in turn number 5. Luke just went sideways from contact from TB. I'm not sure what initially could have triggered it, but something happened there, that's for sure. There's rolling all over the place.
Wheel to wheel, Bourbon gets Cookie for 5th. Or 4th, excuse me. Cookie trying to improve on when he was not in the points today, so could get a very good finish. And now behind that, Redfire was fighting there. Jack there for company. How about 3 cars under a blanket? 3 abreast into turn 4. It was Barney, Annex, and TB in the battle. Cookie and Jack now go side by side. Jack is through. Behind that, TB and Barney side by side to turn 6. Barney inside line. 2 by 2. Outside line for Annex. They touch. Cookie and Annex almost come together, but Annex gets the place. Hunted with a penalty. Cookie now getting swarmed up. Here goes Barney. Barney through. Contact into the bollard. TB with contact. They're both around. Synchronized spinning for Mercedes.
Yeah, Red Fire in turn 4 muscled his way past Boss Cookie, and Jack decided to repeat a favor, muscle his way in.
Final lap now. Final lap underway. Red Bull on the way to win a Constructors title, taking another podium on the season, and another P2 for them with Reese. Korsman leading though. Annex getting all out of shape there because he's now lost 2 places. Here they go for P9. TB's around. TB has been spun around. B-Nix got damage. It's all kicking off. The Chiller's around. There's a throwing missing from one of the cars, it looks like, in this battle, but they all just continue to go into chaos and shambles.
Oh my goodness. Barney all over the back of Red Fire to try to get himself into P6. Red Fire does have that penalty, though.
Hunted with no wing. Shanghai gets the place. Luke battling there. A battle with Josh and Beanick. Contact made. Luke is off again. Red Fire battling Barney. They touch wheels. And now, to the final sector for Korsman. They touch again with Red Fire and Annex. More!
Oh my word.
Korsman is going to come around. He took a win last week in Mexico. He's going to win again for the 2nd week in a row. And Red Bull, P2 and P3, 5 titles in a row! They do it! Constructors champions again here in RPL F1. Red Bull, P2 and P3 with Reese and Cryptic. Bourbon is P4. Jack with a nice P5. Good recovery. Barney, then Annex, Cookie. They all swim to the line. And Ads is P10 for the last point. Wow. What a chaotic ending to this race. And TB, the last one across the line. But everyone just lost their minds those last 3 laps.
That was just mind-blowingly insane. I mean, fair props to Red Bull getting 5 straight constructors in a row. They are pretty much on top of their game for sure. I mean, literally, you had guys like, you had further constructors fights. You had guys like Luke. You had Maxwell. You had the Chiller, Scyther, Reese, Cryptic, bunch of different names, but those are some of your most prominent ones. But this season, Cryptic and Reese together, they wind up getting the Constructors Championship for sure. And Korsman, 2 in a row for him. That's a good showing for him and a good showing for McLaren. It's actually a good showing for McLaren as they boost their shots, getting their more points in the Constructors. And I think more likely, McLaren has definitely got P4 in the Constructors completely locked down.
All right, driver of the day for me. Jack, I'm not going to give it to because of that poor qualifying, but I'm going to give it to Korsman. I have no other choice. I would have gave it to Barney. Again, poor qualifying as well. So maybe I would give it to him. I don't know. I'll go with Korsman though. Barney would be runner-up for me in his debut race, showing nice strides for Aston Martin. But I have to Korsman simply with the fact that qualified P2 just off pole, made a mistake in qualifying, battled back with race for the race win, race lead the whole time, and just 2 wins in a row for McLaren. McLaren need this kind of momentum in the next season. And the fact of the matter that he's done it in his first race full time, that helps that for me. And the other thing being that McLaren hadn't won a race till last week since season 7. They've just got 2 in a row. So nice showing from them.
I don't think McLaren has ever gone 2 in a row in regards to race wins. I think they did in season 6. They did go 2 wins back to back.
I'll
So
check.
it's been a while for them. As for my driver today picks, hmm, I mean, I'll probably also agree with you on Korsman because he was up there pretty much the whole time. Even give Reese a really good run for his money. No doubt in my mind, he's definitely done that. Another driver I think I would probably also consider giving driver today to is Jack. I mean, despite the poor timing in his qualifying, to carve his way from 19th on the grid to finish in 5th, that's actually quite impressive. This is that in I don't know if I really want to compare Jack to this guy, but I think what Jack did was basically Sergio Perez type of maneuverability through the field.
You know what I think Jack showed today? I mean, there's 2 races remaining. The fact of the matter is, Jack has not taken a single podium with his team yet, and he could next season. He's not taken a single pole this season. Next week we go to Vegas. Same week as real life. Week after that, same week as real life at Abu Dhabi as well.
Mm-hmm.
Jack won Abu Dhabi last season. New track at Vegas. Okay, maybe it won't be perfect for Jack. But what I think though, and I'm not trying to suck up to the guy, but I really do think that Jack can take a podium next week or at Abu Dhabi, can take a pole at Abu Dhabi or in Vegas. The Ferrari car is not as capable of doing it, but they should be realistically up there toward the podium. And, Jack seems to be very good on a bottom field car, as previously shown on the Alfa Romeo, where he took podium at Baku. So I do think there's a chance that Jack can very well get on the podium for Ferrari, a 7th different team, and take a pole in a 5th consecutive season for Jack. He does deserve it. He's one of the nice guys in RPL, and we will see it, if not next 2 weeks, which is a possibility, a big possibility in my opinion, at least next season though. But a poll? I need a little bit more to happen for that. We had a crazy session today though, so who knows?
I think I'm going to be a bit more bold on this when I say it. I think it depends on where it is. Vegas, it's a new track for pretty much a lot of these guys, except for those that have done in tier 2, and also some of the drivers that did in F2 last season that are on the tier 1 grid. They'll probably get exposed to that as well. In regards to Jack, I don't know about with Vegas, but in regards to Abu Dhabi, I would not be surprised if Jack pulls out the same thing that he did last season, possibly getting himself onto the podium, hell, maybe even getting a win. I mean, him winning Abu Dhabi Season 8 was a huge surprise. I would not be surprised if Jack actually pulls off that massive upset again in regards to this. I will not be surprised.
You know what though? We have had what, 8 or 9 different winners this season, and with that win, Flaw winning back to back. Yeah, you mentioned McLaren season 6 that happened with TB and Joe Loke at Monaco and Baku, 2 street circuits. We had happened this time at 2 circuits that end up being on the North and South American side of the world. Funny enough, it's just at least in the region. It's crazy how that just turns out. McLaren all-time win number 9, and Flaw all-time win number 3 ties Bourbon for 13th all-time. Before Mexico, it was Flaw who was tied for 21st all-time. So, we said it last week. We said, look at the drivers on the podium besides Reese. Reese took what? A 30-something different podium, 36 last week. He's now tied with the chiller all-time Reese's. But what I said is that Reese ended up doing this and is one of the highest drivers in terms of wins, in terms of poles, in terms of podiums in RPL for F1. But look at the names that are up there on the podium. Last week, Flaw and Josh. I said RPL is a bright future with those drivers taking it. With a win, a podium, and Josh, first couple podiums for him as well. It gets another one in Mexico. And this week, Flaw and Cryptic have had multiple podiums before, or not Flaw, Reese and Cryptic, have had multiple podiums before in RPL. Cryptic's only had one win, but like I said, with Flaw and Josh, and there's others who are going to be in top cars next season who have not really had that chance before. Cookie's up there, Jack's up there, Josh is up there, Flaw is in a McLaren next season. Tons of names, Titan, who I think could really emerge themselves as the next big threat, next big name in RPL. And, we've not had a back-to-back champion since Season 7 with Scyther. We had Season 7 with Scyther. We had last season being won by TB in Season 8, and this season won by Red Bull's Reese Dainty in Season 9. So we're looking at a chance. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but a chance for a fourth different champion in a row if what my kind of prediction works out.
I completely agree. Like I said earlier, the Season 10 group lineup, it is super stacked.
Yes.
It's going to be... You're going to see so many battles. You're going to see so many different podium combinations. And I wouldn't be surprised you'll be seeing quite a few surprise winners for next season.
I agree.
I'm just going to say it flat. As you said it before, next season for Tier 1 is going to be the most competitive and most interesting season in RPL history. No doubt in my mind.
I agree. We've got 8 viewers right now on stream who probably want to see these stream ends so they can rewatch the race. With that being said, just to add on one more thing of what you said, Boss Cookie's AlphaTauri was leading. The last time AlphaTauri won in this league, you would have to go all the way back to one of the very first ever races in this league. HX4K won for Toro Rosso when they were Toro Rosso instead of AlphaTauri. That's what could have been today. And you know what? You said surprise winners. How about some surprise teams winning? We had Alpine last season. So, I'm all for it with that being said. And speaking of being all for it, I'm all for next week now. Here is where to catch us besides the RPL socials on RPL_XB1. Keep up to date with our YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter. But either way, next week, we go to Mexico for Tier 2, F2's at Australia, obviously same time as always, and F1 next week. We're going to go gambling in Las Vegas, and we're going to see who takes the biggest gambles like Cookie did this weekend, but next weekend.
I'm hoping, fingers crossed. I'm hoping I would like to be in the commentary box with you for Vegas next week because I'm actually looking forward to see how the Tier 1 drivers handle this track. I'm actually really excited for Vegas. So we had fun with it in F2 at the beginning of the game. I saw how the Tier 2 drivers have done at... Did Tier 2 do Vegas already?
Yes, they did.
Yeah, I did see that. They did pretty good in that one. I'm actually very, very excited to see how the Tier 1 drivers handle Vegas.
Absolutely. It should be interesting. The Ferraris, they had a photo finish there last time, and Tier 2 had a restart at one point, but, Vegas had some surprises last time. An Alpine surprise pole with that person. Ferrari's photo finish, a Haas on the podium. Multiple things can happen. Speaking of gambling, like we said, let's see who does the gambles in Vegas. That's the place where drivers and people will gamble. Speaking of that, the F1 real life race is there next week at Vegas. So we're up to date with the F1 season in terms of RPL. So that's very nice to see. Probably the only two times we will be for quite a while now. But either way, I'm your commentator, Ryan Searles. Alongside me was Titan Ironwolf, and make sure you tune in next time for RPL Tier 1 next week at Vegas, Tier 2 and F2 next week as well for our next events. And whenever you choose to tune in, we'll see you then. And until next time, good night, goodbye, good evening, good morning, whatever you're watching it, have a good one, whichever one it may be. We'll see you then.